J. Myers, and I have a simple step to peace. And that simple step is for you to get behind the idea of no nukes. Now, I bet that most of you that I'm talking to are already thinking, well, I don't support nukes. In fact, I'm not sure that there are many people who actively like the idea of nuclear warfare. But you might be surprised to know that you are practicing nuclear warfare on a daily basis. And I am betting that most of you who are listening to this are doing that. Do you know that in my occupation as a counselor, the most common thing that I hear people say when they come in is, I just wish I could get rid of this part of me. Now, what this part is changes from person to person. For one person, it's this really critical part, critical of others or critical of self. Somebody else is their laziness, or the part of them that procrastinates, or the part of them that is not interested in sex, or the part of them that gets angry and blows up, or the part of them that's depressed, or the part of them that's crying all the time. Whatever it might be. The common refrain is, I just want to get rid of it. Now, in my mind, that's nuclear warfare. Isn't that what you want to do if you drop a nuclear bomb? You want to get rid of the enemy. And you are treating yourself as an enemy just because there's a part of you who thinks and feels differently than the conscious mind in you that wants to run the show, that has decided how the world is supposed to be and how your behavior is supposed to be. But there's this other alien inside of you that acts differently, and you don't like it, and so you want to get rid of it. That's nuclear warfare. And I want to encourage you to have peace. Because if you will give that part a little breathing room, now I'm not saying license. I'm not saying, oh, you have a part that's so depressed and won't get out of bed. That's all right, just stay in bed. You don't need to get out. I'm not saying that. It's just like kids. You have a child and the child is crayoning on the wall. Well, you might decide, you're a hippie family, you're going to let your walls be full of crayons, but it's probably going to be better for the child in the long run if you socialize him or her to recognize that you don't color on the walls with crayons, because someday they'll get invited to a friend's house and that won't go over really well. So you limit their expression, but you don't condemn the child. Nobody wants to go and blow up their child because they crayoned on the wall, but they do want to stop that behavior. It's the same thing with you. Whatever these behaviors are that you have that you don't like, you want to change your behavior, but you won't do that by confronting yourself and treating yourself like an enemy and trying to nuke yourself out of existence. Instead, love is the way. And so if you will lovingly give some space to that part and be curious about, why is that going on? And when you ask the question in a curious way as opposed to an interrogating way, it's the difference between, why did you do that? Who's going to say, well, I was, and give you this whole explanation. The person's going to clam up if they're going to say, or they're going to strike back, but they're not going to be revealing. So the unconscious parts of you that are directing the behaviors you don't like, if you want them to come creeping out of the shadows and talk to you about what's going on for them, you need to be gentle and compassionate and curious. And when you do, I can guarantee you that you will find that those parts are usually younger parts, and they have something in the history that hurt them badly, and they have found a way to protect themselves from that pain. And when you see how they have been hurt, you will be much more inclined to be loving and forgiving and protective. Often those parts need to hear somebody say, I love you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to take care of you. Sometimes those parts have never, ever heard those words. You can't go back. You can't get your mom or your dad or whoever it was to say the things that you long to hear. Maybe in the present they're completely different people than the person that raised you, but you can, in your imagination, go back into that scene. And as the adult you are, imagine giving that child the protection and the love and the encouragement that they needed. It's so miraculous what happens. It totally changes your life, because once you can imagine being treated that way, then your expectations change and you go through life expecting to be treated in that way. You expect to be safe. You expect to be loved. You expect to be respected. And then, as soon as you expect it, that's what shows up in your life. Because you're leading a parade through life. And everybody, it's like follow the leader. Everybody in your life is following your example. So if you treat yourself like you have no value, they say, okay, we can do that, and they ignore your needs. And then you probably get mad and say, hey, how come nobody's paying attention to my needs? Well, because they're following your lead. So as you become convinced of your value, then you will behave differently, you will have different expectations, and everybody else will follow your lead. So you will feel more peaceful in your heart and in your life, and you will create more wonderful things in the world. So join with me today. I'm Jane Myers, encouraging you to create peace by banning your nuclear warfare policy toward yourself.